Happy Black Friday. Now, I had intended to do a blog, so I'm just going to show you guys a 2-minute clip of me venturing around the top of Oyster Dome, and then I will be redoing what I had meant to be discussing while I was up there today. So enjoy the scenery, and when it's done, you will hear me kind of talk about how there's a lot of things I've been learning with my current therapist and this book I'm reading from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence Others. It's proving to be quite helpful. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do it.
It is definitely Black Friday up here at Oyster Dome. Good old Black Friday at the Dome. Now there's not too many people down here where I can do some blogging on what is probably one of the most stressful days for retail workers that got to work at those department stores and retail stores. I don't even know why anyone would want to shop on a Black Friday, but yeah, this is the place to be. I'm actually kind of surprised there's not at least one or two groups down here. Okay, so I'm just gonna get down here a ways, and so I'm gonna be a little hard on myself on this blog. I'm gonna be really hard, but that's why I'm seeing a therapist. And my therapist is giving me some really good pointers in combination with reading Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence Others in the Digital Age. Ooh, yeah, that's definitely some good therapy right there. As you guys can see, it was pretty busy up there. I mean, like Black Friday busy. And there are a lot of big groups up there. Very few solo people. I would probably say less than like 3 to 5% were up there solo. People with their families, their friends, their significant other, whoever it may be. So it got me thinking that, of course, that triggers a lot of loneliness in me. It triggers a lot of shame, guilt, senses of failure. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about how some of my decisions in my 20s, I feel like I'm actually reaping a punishment from my decisions going back to my 20s. We're not going to be talking about my 30s or 40s. That's going to be for probably separate videos, because otherwise this would just get way too long. But yes, we all make bad decisions in life, but I feel like I made way too many bad decisions from the ages of 18 all the way up to like the ages of 29. And so I feel like I'm reaping the punishment. I mean, we make bad decisions, we have to reap the repercussions. And so, yes, I look at it as punishment, and I got to serve my punishment like a man. Yep, got to man up about it. And so this video may seem a little harsh, but I'm going to first start off by saying that in my late teens and 20s, I had a super big ego, too much of a big ego. I was too self-interested. I was too, you could say I was even too selfish, and I was not a very good person. I was definitely probably not very likable by a lot of people, and there's a good reason for that. And that's why I'm really glad I'm working with a good therapist, and I'm reading this book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence Others, because it's shedding light on perhaps why I haven't gotten myself a good paying job and why I am still single. It has nothing to do with being neurodivergent, because I know people who are on the spectrum who've been in relationships, who've got awesome jobs. And so that's not the point. The point is I look back, and when I think of that video I made 2 years ago of being ugly, I think I gave it a bad title. I think I should have named it as like being unlikable or being unlovable. not being ugly, because a lot of people think I'm relating to like looks. No, it's more being unlikable, unlovable. So what it is that I did in my late teens and late 20s was just a series of bad decisions and not being a good person, just being a horrible person. So let me first start off by saying some of these decisions I'm going to be discussing, you may be laughing at, but some of them are a lot more serious. So we're going to go ahead and start off with when I was a courtesy clerk working at Safeway. It was the week of Thanksgiving. And so this one checker knew that I didn't have any family in the area, that I was going to be probably spending Thanksgiving by myself. So she was kind enough to invite me to spend Thanksgiving with her and her family. Well, dumb me, I declined because I wanted to go skiing. And yep, I went skiing on that Thanksgiving 30 years ago. And that's not the worst of it. Once again, she extended the invite for Christmas. And of course, being that I was a stupid person back then, I decided to go skiing instead. Yep. So that's twice, double whammy. And what could have happened if I had actually accepted the invite? Well, who knows? My life could have led on a completely different trajectory. Okay, so now we're going to fast forward to when I was 19. Summer of 2019, my biological dad had left a house in my name. And if I had been smart enough, I could have just done my thing and rented out the rooms to help pay for the mortgage. But I was too dumb. I didn't think, about things straight enough to where it's like, okay, wait a sec. It's not that hard to put an ad on a newspaper and rent out the rooms and live with roommates and help pay the mortgage. And yeah, our house back then was like worth $250,000. Now it's worth over $1 million. So that was like a really bad decision. And I know I was only 19, but that's not an excuse. I mean, I should have been a lot smarter. And I just made a series of bad decisions throughout my 20s, not going to school, not seeking out a full-time job because, okay, here's what's going on. Okay, so during my grade school years, I was bullied and teased a lot, because I was skinny, because of some weird habits I had, some body movements I used to do, and just some other habits like licking the pages of the books. So I used to get teased and bullied quite a bit in school. So I kind of saw my skiing as a way to maybe potentially become a superstar skier, a professional skier, to kind of prove to people that I'm not like some wimp or some weirdo. So I kind of lost my inner love for skiing and did it more so for extrinsic reasons. Because when I first got into skiing, when I was 8 years old, I remember like the first 2 or 3 seasons, every night before the first day I would go skiing, I couldn't sleep. I mean, I was just like, I can't wait to be on the mountain, go skiing and go ride those little jumps and hop on the lift. I mean, it was for intrinsic reasons, but in my late teens and early 20s, skiing became marred by extrinsic reasons, trying to reap a reward by like becoming famous, maybe making some money, impressing people so they would like be my friend. But here's where I went wrong, guys. And this is where my therapist and this book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others, has taught me. And I wish I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self this, that I could be like, hey, Donnelly, you don't have to be so egotistical. You can work a full-time job or you can go to school full-time and still work on achieving your dream of becoming a professional skier, because there are many people who work full-time jobs and who are way better athletes than I am. Way, way better athletes than I am. And people who go to school full-time and they're competing on the world free skiing circuit. They're going to school full-time. Some of them are even like doctors. I mean, you've got like doctors, you've got lawyers who are competing on the world free skiing circuit. And I kid you not. So I'm going to give you guys some examples of where I went wrong in my 20s and why I'm still reaping the repercussions and how it affected my time in my 30s and 40s. So obviously, I was a really quiet person, but when I spoke way too much about myself, way too much self-interest. So like, for instance, I'm going to give you guys a little example. So if I were to be like my 22-year-old self, and if someone had asked me like, what did you do? So how was your Black Friday? I would have been like, oh yeah, I went up Oyster Dome today. There are a lot of people. I was trying to make a good time. I got up there in like 55 minutes. I got over 3,000 vertical feet of elevation gain. I'm trying to gain so much elevation this year. I came down fast, and that's just like way too much detail, way too much. People are going to be like, well, good for you. Instead, the more appropriate response would be like, oh, I did a little jog up Oyster Dome today. Bam, that's it. Quick and simple. No details, just quick and simple. That way people don't be like, oh, he's just so into himself. If they want to ask, if they're going to ask you about anything else, they'll ask, but you wait for them to ask you, not be like giving them all this excess detail. And this can be really beneficial too when it comes to job interviews. Like when they say, tell me about yourself, you're not going to give them your whole life story. It's maybe like 1 minute maximum, maybe 4 to 5 sentences. I don't know. But very quick and to the point. It's like be brief, be gone. Or in an interview, be brief, be concise. So that's one thing where I went really wrong was I was either too quiet or I was too into myself. And this was pretty much all through my 20s. So here's an example of going back. I remember one time I was skiing with this group of people at Alpental, and they were discussing about where to go in the backcountry. And I mentioned, oh, I want to hit no one. How about we hit no one? And there's like this one drop I want to hit. And one of the guys said, it's all about you, isn't it? So bam, see, that's when I think back of all the mistakes I did in my 20s, it's no wonder why it affected my mindset in my 30s, the outcome of my 30s, and even my 40s. So everything we do in life earlier on is going to have repercussions later on in life, and it can even lead to scenarios where you may develop, depression, anxiety later on in life. So whether it's childhood trauma, bad decisions in life, they can all build up, and you can have certain events that can happen in your 30s and 40s that can trigger mental illness. So that's one instance. Another instance that happened to me was when I was we're going to go back when I was a courtesy clerk at Safeway. I was helping carry some groceries out for this one guy, and knowing that he knew he knew that I had a big ego, and he didn't like that very much. So I was helping him take out his groceries, and I told him that I wanted to get into cycling, and his response was, "You need to pick up a sport to build up those weenie legs of yours." And he may have been bullying me. Who knows? Maybe not. But I saw him at quite a few mountain bike races, and he would hassle me. He would tell me "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Donnie? You're supposed to clean your face after a race. You look like a mess." And maybe he could have been bullying, or he could have been giving me tough love. I'm thinking now it may have been tough love, because after you're done racing, you don't want to look like a schmuck and all dirty and look all filthy. You got to clean yourself up. And because I had such a big ego, thinking I'm like a good skier, and my form was horrid when I was 18, and I basically had crappy form skiing. So I can't really say that I was really that good of a skier, because my form really sucked. So I would see this guy at mountain bike races, and sometimes he would be cool with me, sometimes he wasn't. But I just remember this one time I saw him on his ProFlex mountain bike, because back in the day, I think when full suspension was coming full swing, ProFlex was like the top of the line dual suspension mountain bike. So he was part of a team, and the whole team rode ProFlex mountain bikes. So that's just one a fine detail I wanted to share with you guys. But so that's an instance of this. People knew I had way too much of a big ego. Oftentimes, they could definitely tell they didn't like to ski with me, because I was too egotistical. I was bumming around, not really being a productive member of society, and people don't like that. And I think that was probably one of my biggest fallbacks when it came to making a name for myself in skiing. Even though I wasn't the greatest skier, I still went for it. I like to do things in the backcountry, but I wasn't smart about it. I misbehaved a lot of times. And I remember even some of the lift tops that would be like, "You behave," because it's like, I was ducking ropes and skiing out of bounds. And I wasn't a good person in my 20s. So that's, in a way, I wanted to make this video because in a way, I feel like I'm confessing. And I feel like I'm coming clean. And sometimes we just get to a point in life where we're just like, it's Thanksgiving, I'm going to be 49 in a month, I'm still alone. And it's like, wait a sec, maybe I'm the one that needs to do some confessing and realize that maybe I am not that good of a person and I need to fix myself. And that's why I'm really glad I'm starting to read self-help books. I'm trying to become a better person. I'm seeing a therapist who's really pointing out and not being too much into yourself. Be concise, be brief. And so hopefully within another year or so, I can start kind of just building from the bottom. So as far as 2024 goes, I'm not really holding out high hopes as far as like, what's happening after my seasonal job, because I feel like I've got to really work on those social skills of mine and become a much more likable person. But maybe in 2025, 2026, by the time I get myself some good soft skills going, I've learned to become a much more personable and more likable person. Then I feel like I've got a much better chance of getting myself a good job. I can go out there and start dating. I can go out there and start joining groups. But until then, I've got to kind of take a huge step backwards and almost do like what you could refer to as ego death. So almost like committing ego suicide. And it's like I'm going to pretty much be completely stripping myself. I may be going completely mute and just kind of just observing, reading books, self-help books, and just like learning to be super concise. If someone asks me a question, one sentence, that's it. And then when I'm with someone else, I'm the one asking questions, and then I'm going to ask them follow-up questions. So that way I'm learning to show interest. I'm showing interest in their interests. Because it's no wonder why, I've been failing in life. So yeah, I have to admit, my 20s were a bust, and I failed my 20s. So, it feels good. I confess, guys, I confess. I was a failure in my 20s. I achieved nothing in my 20s. And yep, I was a loser. It feels so good to confess. But I had to do it, guys. I just had to do it. I had to do it. And that's why I want to really emphasize that, I am seeing a therapist. I'm getting therapy. I'm reading books. Because it finally feels good on this Black Friday to just confess. Confess. And sometimes it's just one of those things. Sometimes you just got to find it in yourself and be like, hey, wait a sec. The reason why I'm alone is maybe there is some things I can work on to improve myself. So here it is. It's Thanksgiving weekend, but I'm going to be a man about it, and I'm going to admit to my mistakes, and I'm going to keep continuing to serve my punishment. And when I'm done, I'll be like, okay, don't make the same mistakes, because regardless of whatever you do, whether it's like you commit something, you've got to pay the consequences. It can be a crime, it can be bad decisions, whatever it is, you got to be a man and pay the consequences. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm manning up, guys, manning up and flying solo until I work on those social skills. So with that being said, I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. If you're overseas, well, I hope you're having a good day, good weekend. So yeah, it feels so good to finally confess about my 20s. Oh yeah, 20s were a bust. It just feels. I feel like I have just gone to confession, guys. So, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys' supporting my channel. So take care, everyone. Peace out.